My name is Ryan Callahan, and if you had asked me a few weeks ago what the hardest part of graduate school would be, I would have said the student loans. Not once did I imagine that a typo, just a single letter, would flip my world upside down. I had just been accepted into the School of Literature and Arts at Westford University, a sprawling campus known for its ivy-covered courtyards and painfully outdated traditions. For someone like me, quiet, bookish, and more comfortable with Shakespeare's tragedies than frat parties, it felt like a safe escape from the noise of the world. Or at least it should have. On orientation day, we were herded into the Student Services Hall to receive our ID cards, course schedules, and the dreaded official student attire. Westford wasn't a place where you could just roll out of bed in sweats. No, they insisted on a presentable appearance code. Graduate students were required to wear formal attire assigned by the university, no exceptions. When I reached the desk, a clerk with cat-eye glasses and the warmth of a DMV employee scanned her list and frowned. Callahan. Here we go. Rachel Callahan. Female. Room 312, East Hall. My stomach dropped. No. That's wrong. My name's Ryan. With a Y, male. The clerk didn't look up. The system says Rachel. Female. That's what's on file. And your uniforms were ordered weeks ago. She dropped a plastic-sealed bag onto the counter. Through the clear wrap, I glimpsed a flash of navy fabric and what looked unmistakably like a pleated skirt. I tried to protest, but she shut me down with the kind of tone that ends arguments before they start. If you don't wear what's issued, you'll be marked non-compliant. Non-compliance results in referral to the dean. Do you understand? I understood perfectly. And with my scholarship hanging by a thread, I had no choice but to take the bag like it was a live grenade. Back in my dorm room, I tore it open. A skirt. A blouse with puff sleeves. Sheer stockings. A ribbon. Even glossy shoes with a small heel. My throat tightened. This wasn't just a uniform. It was a costume. Sleep was impossible that night. I turned over every option in my head. Skip class and risk losing my scholarship? Show up in jeans and get written up? Or put it on and pray no one looked too closely? At dawn, the decision was already made for me. I couldn't afford suspension. With shaking hands, I slipped into the stockings. They clung like paint on my legs, strange and foreign. The skirt swished with every step I took across the room. And when I finally buckled the shoes, I caught my reflection in the mirror, my own nervous face above a body dressed like a girl who belonged at a prep school. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. And yet, beneath the dread, a bizarre curiosity hummed like a quiet engine. The first day was torture. Every click of my shoes echoed too loudly. Some students smirked, others whispered. I kept my head down, praying to vanish into the walls. And then she appeared. Lena Morales, sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued, and the kind of classmate who could spot weakness like a hawk. She slid into the seat across from me during break, propped her chin on her hand, and smirked. Well. If it isn't Rachel Callahan. The name hit me like a slap. My jaw clenched. Don't call me that. Her smirk widened. Why not? That's what the university thinks you are. And honestly, she tilted her head, studying me far too closely. You pull it off better than you realize. I froze. The memory of a Halloween party years earlier came rushing back, when Lena, of all people, had dared me into a cheerleader outfit as a joke. She'd whispered then too, with that same mischievous smile, "Careful, Ryan. You make too convincing a girl." And suddenly, the horrible truth hit me like a thunderbolt. Lena had filled out my registration forms when I was too buried in finals to think straight. She had turned Ryan into Rachel on purpose. My blood boiled. You did this. She didn't even bother denying it. Instead, her smirk softened into something unreadable. Maybe I did. But Ryan, she leaned closer, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. Look at yourself. You don't look ridiculous. You look like someone who could belong here. Her words sank like hooks into me, no matter how hard I tried to shake them off. That night, alone in my room, I stared at the uniform laid out on the bed. I should have felt only anger, shame, humiliation. Instead, I felt something far more dangerous. A flicker of curiosity. And that flicker was about to grow into a fire I couldn't control. The following days blurred together into a strange routine I could never have imagined for myself. Every morning I pulled on the skirt, the blouse, the stockings, the shoes. Every morning I felt that same mix of dread and something else I didn't dare name. At first, I told myself it was survival. If I wanted to stay in school, I had no choice. But deep down, I knew there was more going on. And Lena knew it too. She cornered me after class one afternoon, watching me tug at the hem of my skirt like I could stretch it longer. "You're wearing it wrong," she said flatly. I glared at her. "Excuse me?" "You're walking like you're being punished," she replied, crossing her arms. "That's why everyone stares. You hunch your shoulders, you tug at your skirt, you stomp in those shoes like you're marching into battle. No wonder you look miserable." My cheeks burned. "I am miserable. Thanks to you." Her smirk faltered for just a second, replaced with something almost regretful. Then it was gone. "Come to my place," she said simply. I blinked. "What?" "I'll show you how to do it right. You'll look less like a guy stuck in the wrong clothes and more like someone who owns it." I should have refused. I should have told her to stop meddling in my life. But the truth was, she had a point. The more awkward I looked, the more people noticed. And the more people noticed, the harder it was to survive. Against my better judgment, I followed her. Her apartment was the opposite of my sterile dorm room. Warm lighting, overflowing bookshelves, plants on the windowsill, and the faint scent of vanilla and tea. She pointed toward the bathroom. "Go change into the robe hanging on the door. Bring the uniform." I froze. "You've got to be kidding." "Relax," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's not a trap. Just humor me." Reluctantly, I obeyed. When I came back, clutching the uniform, she had laid out the pieces across her bed with almost ceremonial care. What followed was less a prank and more a lesson. She showed me how to roll the stockings slowly, smoothing them up so they didn't twist. She retied the bow at my collar so it sat neatly instead of drooping. She tugged the blouse straight, adjusted the pleats of the skirt, even corrected my posture with a hand pressed lightly against my back. By the time she stepped away, I hardly recognized myself. "You see," she said softly, "when you carry it like it belongs to you, no one questions it." I stared into the mirror. She was right. I didn't look like a joke anymore. I didn't even look like Ryan in a skirt. I looked like someone else. Someone believable. And that realization made my stomach flip. On the walk back to campus, Lena teased me in her usual way. But underneath the jokes, her tone was different. Almost protective. "You know," she said casually, "Rachel suits you better than you think." I stopped dead in the street. "Don't call me that." She raised an eyebrow. "Why not? Isn't that what they call you now?" "Professors, classmates. The system says Rachel Callahan." And honestly, I kind of like it. Her words struck a nerve. I wanted to scream at her, tell her she'd ruined my life. But instead, I found myself remembering how I'd looked in her mirror just an hour ago. Not ridiculous. Not awkward. Just complete. And that scared me more than anything. Over the next week, things shifted in ways I couldn't control. The giggles in the hallway quieted. Professors stopped hesitating when calling on me. People adjusted faster than I did, honestly. But what unsettled me most was how I began adjusting too. The stockings no longer felt like shackles, they felt like routine. The bow at my collar, once humiliating, became something I found myself tying carefully each morning, almost with pride. The skirt's whisper around my legs, it wasn't unbearable anymore. It was strangely reassuring. One night, I caught myself in the mirror after studying. And instead of flinching at the sight, I lingered. My reflection didn't feel fractured anymore. It felt almost dangerously whole. And the scariest part? I didn't know if I wanted to stop. By mid-semester, I had almost convinced myself this was normal. Waking early, shaving, smoothing stockings, tying the bow at my collar. At first, it had felt like punishment. Then, like routine. Now, it was something else entirely, a ritual I couldn't imagine skipping. I'd even stopped correcting people when they called me Rachel. Professors said it without hesitation. Classmates said it without question. Somehow, Ryan had slipped into the background, while Rachel had stepped forward into the light. And then the email arrived. Subject line, clerical error, registration correction. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. The registrar's office had finally caught the mistake. I was requested to meet with the dean of students to rectify the matter immediately. For a moment, the room spun. The life I'd stumbled into, the life I was beginning to inhabit, was about to be erased. Dean Harrington's office smelled faintly of polished wood and old leather books. She was a kind-faced woman with silver hair pulled into a neat bun. Nothing about her was cruel or mocking. Mr. Callahan, she began gently, her voice firm but sympathetic. Or should I say Ms. Callahan, as our system has mistakenly listed you? She offered an apologetic smile. I'm terribly sorry for the stress this error has caused. She slid a crisp envelope across the desk. Your records have been corrected. You are reinstated as Ryan Callahan, male student. Inside, you'll find a voucher for the correct attire. You can collect it from student services at your convenience. My hands hovered over the envelope but didn't touch it. This was what I had begged for at the beginning. Freedom. A return to normal. No more stockings, no more stares, no more whispers of Rachel. So why did it feel like a funeral? Back in my dorm, I laid the envelope on the desk. Beside it, I placed the uniform I'd worn that day, the pleated skirt folded neatly, the blouse with its soft collar, the crimson bow draped delicately across the fabric. 2 lives. 2 futures. One safe, one terrifying. For a long time, I just stood there in my t-shirt and boxers, staring at my own reflection in the mirror. I remembered that first morning, the shame, the panic, the certainty that my life was over. But I also remembered everything since. The debates I'd spoken up in when Rachel was the one sitting at the desk. The confidence that had slipped into my voice, steady and sure. The look in Lena's eyes when she told me I didn't look wrong, that I looked like I belonged. Slowly, almost without thinking, I reached for the stockings. The nylon slid smoothly up my legs, familiar now, almost comforting. The blouse followed, the skirt, the bow tied with practiced ease. When I buckled the shoes and stood before the mirror, the reflection no longer felt like a disguise. It felt complete. And that's when I understood. The envelope wasn't freedom. It was erasure. I slid it into the bottom drawer of my desk, under a pile of notebooks, and shut it. Out of sight, out of mind.